But I gotta say, I'm just fired up to be here today. It's pretty cool, pretty damn cool.
At the time, this was the biggest moment in Clippers franchise history. The other team in LA had just snagged one of the most coveted free agents in the summer of 2019, signing Kawhi Leonard and then pairing him with Paul George in a blockbuster trade. The jokes of the Clippers hanging selfies in the rafters at Staples Center in comparison to the Lakers hanging banners were supposed to be over, except they weren't. Not only did the Clips flame out in spectacular fashion in the NBA bubble, blowing a 3-1 lead to the Nuggets, they had to watch from home as the Lakers won a 17th NBA title. But the 2021 postseason was setting up perfectly for the Clippers. The Lakers were out of the way, and Kawhi looked like the same guy who carried the Raptors to the championship.
A major Kawhi light!
But that would be the last time we'd see Kawhi in the 2021 NBA playoffs. He missed the rest of the postseason with a knee injury. The Clippers did the unlikely, advancing to their first ever conference finals without him. But ultimately, the undermanned Clippers failed to rally from 3 straight 0-2 deficits, falling short to the Suns. Kawhi and the Clippers now face a very uncertain road this summer. Does he pick up his player option? He has until August 1st to do so. Or does he join his 4th franchise in search of his 3rd ring? Nobody quite knows, and he most likely won't be quick to address that decision. But if you followed the quote-unquote Clipper curse that has haunted this franchise, their fan base is probably expecting the worst-case scenario.
Plenty of chips to fall in the months to come. Here's a look at Kawhi's track record. It really doesn't matter what jersey he puts on, what city he calls home, success follows. 7 seasons with the Spurs, 4 trips to the conference finals, 1 trip to the finals, and a title, also an MVP trophy there and in Toronto, as his 1 season culminated in a conference finals, a finals appearance, and a title as they turned out the lights at then Oracle Arena. His 2 seasons with the Clippers, well, made it to the conference finals, but nothing to show beyond it. Let's welcome aboard NBA analyst Tim Doyle for a look into his crystal ball. TD, it's the NBA. There's really no telling who's going to be where in a few months' time, especially Kawhi Leonard. You think back to the transition from Toronto to LA and the decision that was marred with uncertainty till the final hour there. But if you could crawl into the brain of Kawhi and report back, I'd have a bunch of questions, but mainly, he plays where next season?
You know, he never wanted to go to Toronto, if you remember that. So, not sure if you've checked the forecast during the winter months. Toronto's a pretty tough place to live in, you know what I mean? Then once you go to LA, there has not been a lot of superstars in any sport that once you get to LA, you're like, hey, get out of here. Like, this place is awful. Like, you know, I know the taxes are insane, but man, every day is just perfect out there. And I think that he might have had a different viewpoint before what he saw from Paul George over the last couple of series. He was really good. You know, there was like maybe a trust factor of like, he sat up there in the suite. Remember the Clippers kept saying like, we don't know if he's going to play. Like, everyone knew inside the organization he was never going to be a go. But he had to be impressed from what he saw from Paul George. He wanted Paul George. And now he's getting, I think, a new and improved, a confident Paul George. So I think he runs it back. I can't imagine him looking around the NBA landscape as you see his player profile right there of like, I need to go somewhere else. They were so close both years, and I had them as the favorite. That's who I bet this year to win an NBA championship. And heck, they win game 2 against Phoenix. Maybe they are playing in the NBA Finals. The fact that he just went out there and bought a $30 million house in LA, I know money doesn't mean anything to him, but Joe, that's a lot of money to spend on a house if you're not going to live in the area. So I think Kawhi ends up staying with the Clippers. I think Steve Ballmer's an outstanding businessman. I think he has to pitch Kawhi more than just salary. He's got to pitch him a vision about the organization. I think he pitches him ownership at some point with the Clippers, staying out there. You have to bait in Kawhi Leonard, and you have to sell him on, hey, Kawhi, you're in your 30s. There's going to be life after basketball. You do right by me. I'm a billionaire. Look what I've built. I'm going to bring you aboard. If I was Ballmer, that's what I would be doing. Because when the playing ends, you got to do something. Whether it's teach grade school or mow lawns or start a company or become a mailman. Like, you got to do something every day. And if I was Steve Ballmer, I would be telling Kawhi, I'll give you equity in this team if you stick around. Is that necessarily legal as far as the NBA? That I'm not really so sure about.
We will dot those I's and cross those T's when that day comes. But yeah, Kawhi diversifying in more ways than one. Nothing would surprise me when it comes to the two-time Finals MVP. Kawhi does have that $36 million player option next season in L.A. Damian Lillard, on the other hand, won't be an unrestricted free agent until 2025, yet we're still talking about the clock striking midnight on Dame time in Portland. TD, this is a man who prime and continually just talked about not having to join a super team and loving what they have in Portland. It's kind of the way he wants to go about his business, and it fits the mold there in the Pacific Northwest. But a new era is being ushered in under Chauncey Billups. Do you think Dame sticks around to see it through?
I don't, to answer your question. I don't know where he ends up, and there's been a lot of talk, and maybe he goes to the Warriors. He's from the Bay Area. I know that the Knicks are a destination where I'm sure Knicks fans would be like jumping off the Empire State Building to go get him, because if there was no Steph Curry, we would talk about Damian Lillard in a different light. Maybe he would have an NBA title. I think Damian Lillard is the Dominique Wilkins that Dominique was to Jordan, if Curry is Jordan, and for that era. I think Damian Lillard maybe doesn't get the respect he deserves, but I'll say this. He'll never win a title in Portland with that roster. They don't guard anybody. They have like 6 bad defenders. Like, I don't care what you say. You watch the teams that are playing right now. Like, once in a while, you got to get a stop. And Portland was embarrassing against Denver. Now you bring in a new coach who obviously played on a great NBA defensive team 20 years ago. How is that going to translate to making horrible defenders at least adequate defenders? I think at the end of the day, he'll be in Portland next year, but after that, I would find it hard to believe that he's still up there.
Yeah, at a certain point, super team or not, Dame's going to be looking for his chip. If we're talking about big contracts and maybe a plummeting stock, Ben Simmons began his 5-year, $177 million deal, becoming the butt of the joke, really. The jumperless point guard passes on the shot. His head coach and star duo player casting their doubts in the postgame presser. Just seems like a marriage destined for divorce right now in Philly, but there don't appear to be many takers on the open market. We heard about a Pacers deal turned down. Do you believe that the Sixers can get a deal done before tip next season?
Yes. I think this guy's a generational talent. I'm still not jumping off his bandwagon. What Ben Simmons needs to do is deactivate his Instagram. Lay low for a while. You ever see Anchorman? I've been meaning to talk to you for a while. Like, you should probably lay low.
Things escalated quickly. Things escalated quickly.
Real quick in the Eastern Conference semis when he just refused to shoot the ball. I think for him it's all about going to the right destination where he becomes a featured offensive player surrounded by shooters. I found it very odd that the Pacers wanted him. I thought the Sixers should have done that deal. Malcolm Brogdon, he actually gives you what you need. And then they tweeted out that they want an all-star caliber, it's like player. It's like slap Malcolm Brogdon in the face. He's pretty close to it. And by the way, you don't have a point guard, 76ers, and he makes an open shot and he defends. And the first rounder for Ben Simmons. I thought that was a really good deal for the 76ers. I don't know why the Pacers would want him. You have Sabonis, you have Miles Turner. Like, why would you need Ben Simmons? He's kind of in the way. What I see Ben Simmons being is like a 5. We're all shooters around him. I think the one thing he really needs to work on, if I was Ben Simmons, besides free throw shooting, that's a given, he needs to develop an unbelievable post game. Because at 6'10", the fact that he's such a great shooter and everyone is switching screens, once he sees little Joe Musso on the floor, that's it. He should set a screen. Joe Musso's going to switch on him, and then he eats. There's a double team. Like, he has to be so much smarter than everybody and just recognize, all right, they're going to be switching. I need to get in the post. But when he catches the ball in the post, it's kind of like half-hearted hook. Like, he needs to become an assassin in like the 10 to 12 foot area. He doesn't need to become Dan Marley from 3. Like, it'd be okay. He just needs to play with some swag and some confidence. And I know this watching the 76ers. Embiid's in his way. His stats and numbers are so much better when Embiid's not on the floor. So he needs to go to a team, not the Pacers, that's going to let him fly a little bit. But I think at the start of next season, Ben Simmons will not be wearing a 76ers uniform.
So maybe it is a mutual parting of ways in the city of brotherly love. We always got love for our guy, Tim Doyle, here on HQ. Thank you, Timmy.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, here's a look at some of those notable free agents in the class of 2021. Kawhi Leonard, Chris Paul, both with player options. But then looking at some free agency news here, unrestricted are DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry, Mike Conley, Dennis Schroeder, and Rashawn Holmes there in Sacramento, who had a nice little season a year ago. Not necessarily the star-studded classes of years past, but the landscape in the NBA can change at the drop of a hat.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.